the nutshell of what we're diving into here is Sony thinks that this Activision Blizzard deal could actually affect the quality of your games in the future. And that's kind of the big note that I wanted to focus on in this discussion, because a lot of other folks are commenting on this like, oh, Sony's scared and console war shenanigans. But I always like to think of the bigger picture stuff with you guys sometimes, and like just how that affects you as a console gamer. It's Samurai Kibiji. What's up? I like to build game hype with you every week. Codename Good Game. We're going to have that show coming up. Subscribe if you've been here before. But what we're talking about, I'm sure you already know by now, but just in case you don't, nutshell is the Activision Blizzard deal, which, Microsoft was acquiring Activision Blizzard. You know about that. And there's like an official thing on the internet now that is of the regulators in Brazil as they're, getting this deal approved by the FTC and European Commission, yada, yada, yada. Brazil is a lot more transparent, I guess, with what other publishers have come in to say, like Warner Brothers, Bandai Namco, Ubisoft, and others. And Sony was one of the folks that they brought in to kind of drop their opinions on a lot of questions that they had. And it's definitely the most negative take. But I think there is a point here that is interesting. And one of the things that a lot of people are mentioning is, they mentioned how they believe there won't be anything that can compete with Call of Duty. There is no first-person shooter franchise that can compete with Call of Duty, as every other publisher asked here is like, oh no, Apex, Battlefield, like that stuff can compete with it. But Sony brings up the point that like Call of Duty is literally a console seller sometimes. Like the amount of traffic that Call of Duty generates is staggering. And even if there was a developer out there that like put in the same budget and the same first-person shooter genre and stuff that Call of Duty did, it's gonna be a hot minute before anything moves systems and moves sales like COD does. But we've already addressed, Call of Duty is not gonna be exclusive. They've already addressed that, like Phil Spencer and everything. The bigger thing, they were essentially asked how Game Pass kind of affects the market. And Sony even admits, Game Pass has actually grabbed like 60 to 70% of the global subscription services market, which is insane. And they admit like it's going to take at least several years for a competitor to come to it. So there you go, fanboys, whatever, take whatever of that. But the bigger thing that they bring up about this, that is kind of the bigger question, that global market is being so impacted by Game Pass, and a lot of people are going to it, that they feel if a lot of gaming today migrates over to subscription services, instead of going for that one-time fee model that is very traditional, that we're used to, that a lot of people still do today and probably will still do for the next couple of years because they want to own their thing physically, digitally, whatever. If everything goes a subscription model, that might actually affect the quality of your games, because the developers and publishers really rely on the sales of these games to recoup their investments, right? And if they don't get those upfront fees anymore, or don't get them as much as they used to, and they're strictly reliant on the subscription model, their recouping has to be less, because maybe their budget had to be less because they don't expect as much return in terms of sales. It's strictly reliant on maybe how many people play the game through the subscription and whatever. But if games have to go through that model, it might affect how much that they can put into the game. They didn't say that directly, but that's essentially what they're getting at. And that is the only point here that I think is fair. Like everything else is fair, but that is potentially true. There is no first-person shooter, I'm not talking about as good as Call of Duty, but in terms of like the sales that Call of Duty generates, nothing competes currently. In terms of quality, absolutely, but in terms of sales, nothing competes. It's like Pokemon for Nintendo. Pokemon, there might be better Nintendo games, but Pokemon is the seller for Nintendo. It is the seller. And that's what COD is for just, general multi-plat shooters kind of a thing. There's nothing that competes with that in terms of sales. So that is potentially true, but the thing there is that that's not going to become an exclusive anytime soon. So in terms of the subscription stuff, that is something that could be an immediate effect. That if Call of Duty is, it could be multi-plat, but if it's strictly speaking going to only be on the subscription service that is Xbox Game Pass, and a lot of people might gravitate to that, then that might shift things to make a lot of things like streaming. You know, we have Paramount Plus, we have Disney Plus, we have Hulu, we have Netflix, we have HBO Max, we have Crunchyroll, we have High Dive. God damn it, High Dive, you screwed me out of some good animes recently. But, you know, we have all these streaming services for, you know, watching stuff. And if the gaming market shifts to that, they might have to, you know, have their budgets and sale projections based off of the subscription service. And for the personal level here, there's still some great things we have gotten on subscription services, you know. South Park managed to make some cool movies for Paramount Plus. There's quite a decent amount of budget that went into especially Netflix shows, you know, like Stranger Things season 4 is the best thing I have watched all year, no question. And there's really good stuff that is produced through subscription services. And for gaming to transition to that, that will be interesting because maybe we have that mindset, you know, where it's like, yeah, it's got really good budgets for a subscription show or a TV show. We always say that. But when we go to the movie theaters and watch some, you know, big blockbuster Avengers movie, that is something that they get their recoup in investments through the tickets they sell at the movies. If gaming transitions to that where we don't get any more Avenger-like movies, which doesn't mean we will get bad stuff. It doesn't have to be super duper high budget to be great. Freaking Outer Wilds and Undertale, two fair games of mine, those are indie games, but nonetheless, it doesn't have to be a AAA thing to be quality. But I admit, games with big scale, like say Horizon Forbidden West, or the coming Starfield, will we get games like that in the future if we transition to the subscription model? The quality doesn't suffer, though. You got to see Xbox become the Metacritic Publisher of the Year last year. I'm tired of seeing people say, you know, they don't publish good games, where it's like, well, guess what? They posted the best games last year. That's not the issue. It's the scope and the scale of these games that'll be interesting. But maybe we'll get proven wrong on that. We haven't seen what's up with Gear 6 in a long time. That might be cool. Or maybe if you want a newer franchise, Hellblade 2. Hellblade 2 is the most realistic looking game I have ever seen in terms of just like, I don't know, just all around the way it looks and feels. It just seems like real. And Starfield is promising a lot in terms of, you know, it's been in development long before Bethesda got acquired by Microsoft, but in terms of just going to all these different planets, that's insane. That is a big scale, but, you know, the engine, in my opinion, doesn't hold up necessarily that well compared to a lot of other things. But you get what I mean? Like, it's possible we will still get these huge-ass experiences, but will they be affected by, you know, being based on a subscription model potentially in the future? We're not quite there yet. Sales still happen, but we might eventually transition to this subscription model, and I think that's what Sony's getting at, and that's especially the question I wanted to see you answer and to offer a hot take on. Personally, that does worry me a little bit, and I hope to be proven wrong about that, especially from the games I listed that are coming, and we shall see. And it's the very reason Sony has said they don't want to do a subscription like this, because they feel that the games they produce, they can only recoup those expenses by selling them. But what is the solution here? Maybe you know it. If you want to know a bit more about the games coming this year, you can check out this video right here.